Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a new video. So today we are looking at my flip of Rihanna, Don't Stop the Music. Now, I actually made the entire first half of this song live, not live, but I recorded the whole thing and posted it to YouTube about a month ago, making a drop from scratch. You guys seem to really like that format, so if you haven't seen that, I definitely recommend it. But today, we're going to be looking at the second drop, which I think is even more high energy. This project file is going to be on Patreon. I'm going to freeze every third-party plugin layer. All you need is Ableton Live 11 Suite or Ableton 12 to open this project. I do have a few other project files already on Patreon. And then last thing here is you'll see a lot of the samples from this project come from my sample packs. That's pretty much it. I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm actually going to start with a drop because you know, attention spans, brain rot. If you want to know about the build and intro and break, I'll be doing that after the drop. So I think that's it. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for watching. Without further ado, let's get into the video. All right, guys, so let's get into this. Like I said, we're going to go over the drop first, but I'm just going to play it here from the build in case you haven't heard it yet. Let's just jump into this right away. So first thing, as you notice here in the drop, we got a little fake out. We're gonna start with the drums. So yeah, we have a little techno kick fake out, few layers here. First one is from my song Cruel. I just pitched it down a little bit. Whew, the low end on that one is crazy. The next one here is more of like a hardstyle. I mean, honestly, guys, I don't know anything about hardstyle or techno, but I think this is like a hardstyle kick, right? As this 2 bars happens, I'm bringing out this peak here. Just kind of like adding to the rising effect. And then this last one here is like a crunchy layer. Altogether, I'm not even doing any group compression, just a little bit of EQ. Really nice for the fake out. And then let's get into these trap drums here. So I love doing these little fast kicks, especially on a lower BPM. Like usually I'm at 140, 145, but for this remix, I'm at 135. And that's really nice for doing like the 16th note lead, da 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 da, and then also like some fast kicks like this. Typical sport kick, of course. Snare, of course. These side snare hits, I love doing these. It kind of helps with the rhythm. Then I have this little clap layered on every other snare. Just has a reverb throw going on, so like the snare kind of has some variance each time. As we move down here, got a little break. And then I love doing this. It's like a kick, but I crunched it with a hard curve on the saturator, and that's really nice going into a new section. Then we have a tom hit, the glitch in it. Then for the perks, keeping it really simple, couple of ride layers, a nice trappy hat loop, and then kind of an aggressive open hat. It doesn't sound very aggressive alone, but you could really hear it in the stack really well, which I like. And I do have a little bit of reverb on it as well. Again, going back to like the slightly lower BPM thing, I like to do an open hat when it doesn't sound too congested. So I think it worked really nicely in this instance. And then let's get into the sidechain group. Let's play this. There's that fake out. I just love how this wall of sound hits you. So I'm doing kind of a manual sidechain here for that techno kick. Whoops, for that techno kick to come through, and I'm kind of making it less and less as time goes on. I'm also removing the reverb off of that like rave lead thing. So it kind of starts off, you know, very aggressive with the kick and just kind of condenses, brings you into this moment here. So in this FX group, there's really nothing interesting. It's just going to be some impacts, risers, you know, typical stuff. Risers in and out of sections. As you can see, a really big stack of risers in this build, which I'll cover later. Just because the build actually runs all the way up until the drop. There's not like a pre-drop break here. So I really wanted to keep that energy moving as best as I could. And then I just have this little reverbed hit thing just to help with a bit of high end for this initial impact. You can barely hear it, but it helps a little bit. And then we get into this rave lead thing. Which you can see has been kind of fading in for a really long time. And this progression that I chose here is just following part of the vocal that I brought in. I believe it's this one. So yeah, I'm just kind of matching that. It's just going between an E and an F at a really cool little rhythm. And the patch is super simple. It's just a couple of basic MCBs. I think I got it from Splice and messed with it. But here's the effects. I'm automating the noise up and the reverb as well, which is kind of creating that swell for me. Kind of going really high up here with reverb and then bringing it back down until this is pretty dry. And then yeah, so we're doing this E and F pattern thing, and then when the drop actually comes in, it's just gonna sustain this E really quickly. Then we got a little rave stab turnaround. Just giving it a little bit of space with the clean space rack. Yo, Sportman from the future here to give a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, Vocalfy. Vocalfy is a platform where you could browse and buy full-length royalty-free vocals. One of the great things about Vocalfy is that they actually limit the supply of each vocal. They regularly delete old ones, and this ensures that producers get a fresh, rare vocal that hasn't been overused. Alright, let's check out some vocals. This first one's called All My Love by Amara. Alright, next we got I'm Free by Luna.
And then suddenly you ask how long I'm staying. I don't know if I should go or dive my head in.
Alright, one more, Broke Me by Elaine.
Oh, how you broke me. I knew that you were trouble from the first kiss. Oh, how you broke me.
Synths are sick too, honestly. Dude, these vocals instantly spark so many ideas, to be honest. Alright, if you guys are interested, they hooked me up with a 10% discount code for you guys. It's Sport Mode 10. Be sure to check out the first link in the description and get you guys some cool vocals. Alright, let's get you back into the video. Moving down to this whole bunch of sounds. These are all sustains, but you'll see our progression, our drop progression goes 4 bars of the 16th notes and then 4 bars of a response. So I'm alternating the sustains to not fatigue the ears too much. So on the call we have that and that one, and then on the returns or on the responses we have that guy, really noisy one, really love that one, siren, and this one. So nothing fancy, I'm just doing a little bit of work filling in the space, but this is all really important stuff. This is all background stuff, but it's like if I played you the drop with just like these donks, it's pretty damn empty. Then another support layer, so you got the sustains, but another important support layer is the quarter notes, the quarter note boys as I call them. So we got this guy, more high pitched. I think of these guys, the quarter note boys, or girls of course, but I think of these as supports to the rides up here at the top. So that's obviously taking care of the high end up here really nicely, kind of keeping that rhythm. But these guys, I want them to fill in more of the mid-range. So that one, this one's still kind of high, but this guy's nice and low here. Shout out Wub for this rack. I really like this auto filter on it, which automates at every single hit to just sweep. Like if you kind of look at this frequency range right here, just does a nice little sweep, and we could kind of exemplify this even further. So these two have the same purpose, but they're in completely different frequency ranges. That helps to have them not clash. And then on the group, I'm just saturating a little bit, compressing a little bit. And I really like this compressed room reverb. It's just an Ableton preset. It adds reverb, but then also compresses it. I think it's like a parallel chain as well. Yeah, so you got the dry signal and the wet signal coming through. And this helps because it kind of puts these in the space with the reverb, but then it compresses it so it doesn't sound too flimsy, or, you know, start getting like, you don't start getting like tails getting in the way and stuff. So without this, see, it really just brings out the space that the reverb adds. And then next we're going to get into probably everyone's favorite layer, the donks. So here's what this donk group sounds like. Yeah, so we kind of just are doing 16th notes, and then when this turns around, I'm following the progression of that Rihanna vocal. Da 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 da. Except I'm not even pitching these; they just kind of hold the same note, and you could see down here I've just chopped up the Rihanna vocal just to kind of help with the stuttering effect. So if you guys did watch the first video for this track, when I was making the first drop, these donks were at a lower pitch. And if you kind of notice in the video, I was really being super precise. Like I would pitch this to be perfectly the exact note. You know, I would find the note. Like I would bring out, you know, the specific EQ point, and then I kept on like looking at this, checking to make sure it's exactly the note I need, and I would like pitch them. Anyways, for drop 2, I said fuck all that, and I just grabbed this shifter on the entire group and just moved it up until it sounded right. And as soon as I felt that it sounded right, I didn't even bother checking the EQ points. I just left it. I was like, all right, don't touch this the rest of the track. It's perfect. And all that to say is sometimes it's nice to be super accurate and like get exactly the note. But at the same time, like for this second drop, I just trusted my ears, and I was just listening to this little fake out I had, right? This fake out goes between an E and an F. Da, 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 da. So I was just thinking like, oh, what note does this need to be? It just needs to be a really high energy, high pitch. I just kind of dragged this up till it sounded right. And then later on, I actually did look at the EQ just to see what note I was hitting. It's like right in between an E and an F. So it's like ever so slightly detuned or microtonal, whatever. But I think it works really nicely because this was going back and forth between the E and the F. Between the E and F like the whole time for this whole like 32 bars. And so I don't know, something just worked out there, I guess, with this being slightly out of key. I think that adds to the grit of it. If I had like pitched these super perfectly and not used the shifter, you know, like maybe it would have still had the same impact, but maybe it would have just sounded too boring and too like calculated, I guess. So all that to say is, sometimes it's nice to get things super accurate, but sometimes it's nice to just listen to your ears, and like, of course, your ears will be probably, unless you have perfect pitch, you know, you'll probably be slightly off, but that actually might add to it instead of take away from it. I don't know, just my 2 cents, but let's get into these layers. We could just look at the group first. It's just very simple, multi-band shifter, 1 reverb on 1 second with 5% to just put it in a space, all these different channels. And the second one I use for throws, I use quite frequently. It's really nice when you're doing this like sustain stuff. The reverb throws help break it up a little bit. Much bigger ones here. They're really important doing these reverb throws. If I take these out, versus, you know, it just kind of breaks it up every once in a while. First one here is kind of just add some noise. You know, I did pitch it, but I guess the shifter does make a difference, but just kind of shifting it into position to where it sounds good. Not really anything methodical with that. I'm not really caring about the notes, because the main tonal one is this one. And I have this rack on it. So that's without the rack. What is the sample? I think it's just, yeah, just from one of my loops. And I had pitched it with, I think I pitched the individual sample, but then also have this like trap donk rack on it. Yeah, where I shifted it up, wider fresh air, making it wide and louder, transient shaper. So this rack is really nice for making things sound lasery. And I actually made it a bit better so I could put it on Patreon for you guys with macros and everything. So all it does, like you heard, is just make these kind of aggressive little flute sounding sounds or chug basses, you know, anything that has a nice tonality to it. The rack just makes it easier to shift that tonality point around. So got a little saturator on it. Disperser, where the disperse frequency is, you could kind of catch nice resonances sometimes. Just messing with that. And then this EQ peak is a similar thing. You could kind of put it all the way and try to catch a nice resonance. Wherever sounds good, and then just a built-in reverb there. So really simple rack, but it's useful for getting these sounds to sound right quick. Right, so that one's playing like that super high E, F, and then this one I think is a little lower. I think I just manually pitched this one. It already sounded good. So if we look at this EQ again on this whole stack, there's that main one around the E and the F, but then there's like a slightly lower one hitting the C, which kind of in a way turns the stack into not really a chord, you know, but it's kind of cool when it hits two notes. So that's the main sound. Like when you solo these, they don't really sound that good. I think that's what I was saying earlier, that the background stuff is really important. It really helps to fill out every space around this. So if you just do it visually, like this is all, obviously this peak, very important, and then like this high end that kind of gives it that, kind of helps it cut through the mix. You wouldn't really want to compete for any of this space right here. So all my other elements are going to be like way up here, and then like these chug basses are going to be kind of down here. And the sustains are actually going to be in this area too, but you'll notice like they're much wider, like really going between the ears, whereas these are pretty centered. All right, let's move on to this response. It's a very similar, you know, like thought process. I did add these bigger sounding donks just to give this section some more space. And then yeah, these are just same process, just different sounds. Just pitching them differently. A really nice low one here. Kind of a rhythmy sounding one. So these stack with the vocals sounds pretty good, I think. And then in the second part, I bring the pitch back down. So what do we have here? Just a little wub throw. We got a little trap screech. And that is pretty much that. Then we get into more of the mid basses and sub eventually. All right, up next, let's look at the mid basses. So, you know, got that boy hitting on all of the kick hits. This is a rack that I put on Patreon. So it's just a nice little harmonic kick layer. Could control the octave here. Also the filter position. Of course, you could also go into the serum patch and mess with it yourself, but you know, I just like having this quickly, being able to drag and drop that nice harmonic bass layer. And then on top of that, I got a noise. So that's just, yeah, just bright white. The amp here really helps to bring it out. Nice and, you know, like a little zipper. And these two layered. Really strong peaks there from that harmonic bass layer. And you'll see when we get to these mid basses, like they're not really competing for space, which is important, which is why this one is able to be heard really clearly. Then what's this? Yeah, just another rack from another project. Little garage wub. Simple sine wave FM situation. So one is just up 3 octaves. You're doing FM from B. Simple effects. The envelope follower here is just connected to this hiss erosion, which brings that noise out. So without this. And so the reason I did this was just to match the volume shape of that wub coming in. So it just kind of grows over time. Not grows, it gets louder over time. And with the gain, you could kind of tune that, dial that in how you want. Then same old for me. Compression, soft sine, OTT, rare. I don't usually use OTT, but sometimes, you know, you got to join the Rhythm Boys Club and throw on an OTT. Yeah, and then just an EQ to shape. And then the group also has an EQ to shape, just taking out some space for where those donks hit. So those are our little mid bass. I guess that's one group of the mid basses. I would consider that a mid bass, but then here's like the more standard ones that just follow the sub progression. So what do we got here? This first one's actually just noise, and this is actually kind of cool. So yeah, this is just bright white noise. I'm saturating it a little bit. Chorus is going to make it a little bit wider, EQing all the lows out. And then this auto pan, so without that, you know, just noise. The rate here is what's important. So I have this like max for live thing on the master. It doesn't do anything. It just gives you frequency to notes. I'm pretty sure this is free. So my bass line hits an E0 for the entire way through pretty much. So I looked over here, E octave 1, really it's octave 0. The frequency of that note is 41.2. So I just plugged that in right here on this auto pan rate. And now this noise is going to LFO or modulate at the exact same rate of this sub sine wave. So if we play the sub and the noise together, it's like the perfect sub distortion sound without actually using a sub. And just to show you, you could get a similar effect if you were to just introduce a sine wave and have some distortion cranking, turn the auto pan off. You know, it's kind of a similar sound, right? But I find that just using noise and then modulating it yourself with an auto pan to the same rate of your sub, it just sounds even cleaner, I think. And you don't have to worry about any of those of like the sub distortion frequencies coming through. Like it's literally just noise. I find that this works really nicely. And then the second layer here is a bit more of a mid bass layer, although I'm still removing a lot of the lows. Because I know I have these guys here, which are really prominent in this low mid range. So I really don't want to compete for space there. I want these to be able to shine through. So, you know, I'm just EQing this to just get a little bit of mid range from it. And then lastly here, the sub, 2 sine waves. The second one is off, +1 octave, FM from B, about 30%. Then the LFO on the master tune, I think it's doing like seven semitones. And I put an amp on this sub, just barely on 12%, to add some information in this kind of low mid range a little bit. Just because, you know, there's really isn't much going on, you know, when these hits aren't happening in the low mid. So that just kind of helps bring some more volume there. Forgot about this Reese, just a good old Reese rack. Messing with this auto filter to get the shape right. And then I'm also messing with the pitch bend. And I'm messing with the fine tune, which makes it kind of wobble. So that's this guy, this fine on oscillator B right here. Here's the rack if you want to copy it. We could see what it sounds like without this, without all this stuff. I guess just a bit muddier, maybe even a bit fuller, but I like to do these notches out in Reese's. Start to sound kind of neuro-y. Then down here in the vocal group, you know, you got the pre-drop. Of course, goes crazy before the drop. And then, like I showed a little earlier, the vocal chopped up for that response part. And then I think this is just like a effects breath thing. Yeah, just some background stuff. And then this vocal effects group here to just back up the drop. So you got that for the fake out, and then this freeze here, we could unfreeze that. I just grabbed a little bit of the vocal, put it in granulator, reverbed and delayed it out so it turns into a pad. Oh, apparently something's broken, so I'm going to undo that. But yeah, just to make a little pad out of it, auto pan it, fill in some of the frequencies. Then these guys are just chops from this vocal. I automate them left and right for the return part as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the drop, I think. Nice. All right, guys, so let's go through this midsection and build number 2 pretty quickly. I'll just play it from here so you see what we're working with. And then, you know, we get into build number 2. So, to start here with the drums, just went for a nice little break beat, or like a 2-step garage pattern. I'm using a different kick here, it's a nice soft kick. But I was missing a little bit of transient, so I grabbed a different kick and I pitched it up all the way, like plus 48 semitones. And then I EQ'd it, so I have this nice click here. So these two now stack really nicely. Adding a click like this just helps cut through the mix a little better. So you know we got the kick pattern, then for the snares or the perk, just have a few stacked here. So this guy, a nice garage perk, clap layer, and then a tonal clap layer. That's what you got, and then some side hits. And we got the same open hat I was using in the drop. And a little loop from my volume 2 sample pack. This loop is pretty full, so that's all I really felt like I needed. And then I added this crash here. I mean, this section is being carried by the vocals, so there's really not too much going on. I'm just leaving space for them. But I'm going to just have some things starting to build up here, like the sign pluck. Bit of delay on it, and then eventually it does the same progression as the RIHANNA vocals. So you're just alternating between E and F, some noise, a little atmosphere. Love doing these like one note hits from labs. Sits nicely in the background. Same trick as the vocals below. I just grabbed a little hit of this effing sample, looped it in granulator, added some reverb and delay. EQ. turns it into a pad. Simple transitions, a little bass hit, just a tonal hit. That just opens up over time. And then, yeah, that's where this Serum Rave lead thing that happens in the drop starts coming in. Same progression the whole way through, just really slowly opening up. Little pad here doing a transgate. Siren. Moving down. Should just be the Reese left. Yeah. So the Reese is going to have cutoff being modulated open. Just opening it up for this whole progression and then kind of back down. Taking it away when it hits this really high note. I think it's an E1. Yeah. There's really not even sub at that point. And the other cool thing is LFO on the MG low. And also depending on how high you put this resonance, it can start to sound pretty like acidy. So I like doing that when I'm trying to accentuate hits. Just a rising progression. And on this one, since it kind of holds up here, yeah, I did a little pitch bends going into these really high notes. You know, just to help with the flow a little bit. And then it's just the vocals. See what it sounds like without this. Then with it. Yeah, I'm just adding a lot of overdrive, kind of gets them a little crunchy, and then same thing as usual. Compression, soft sine, fresh air. Take the sub out. The boba kind of squashes down the tonality peaks, and then I bring up the total level of everything after that. So without this boba, and with it, just kind of evens everything back out. Clean space rack. Yeah, I usually have that open. So just adding a little space here. And then since this is kind of like a midsection part, I'm also adding in another reverb after that to do more of like swelly stuff. And then for the, like right before the build, it gets dry again. And then just EQ to shape, automating it open, the high end open, and have another little hit here from the acapella. Similar processing. And then this freeze is made out of the vocal. I just, same granulator method from above with that FN sample. You just throw it in, reverb delay. I have a rack for that. Granulator pad rack. Yeah, just like a nice bed for the vocals to sit on. That's pretty much it for this whole, I guess that's 16 bars? Yeah. Major difference, what keeps the progression going is obviously changing the Reese notes, and then also some of the effects start to come in, like the sustained riser and that Rave lead. So let's listen to the build now. Yeah, so you see this build goes like all the way up until the end. There's not really, like the vocals come in here, but we're still got the drums and the risers going crazy, building that up. So for the build drums, little kick here. It's gonna get auto filtered. Yes, you got that kick. You got a snare. It's gonna get pitched up. Crash here going out of that break section. Open hat. And these tops kind of fade out. And that's it for the drums. Very simple. For the sidechain group, I think this endless smile is actually doing a lot of work for the sweeping motion. Yeah, I mean, I'm sweeping it all the way up to the max. That sweeps it up really nicely. But this is just a shit ton of risers stacked kind of carefully. I didn't want to use too many that are tonal, so like this one up here is pretty tonal. But then this one is very noisy. Has a nice pan on it. Another tonal one, but hitting a different note. Another noisy, bright one. And then this is kind of like a lasery one. You know, so just using different types of risers. You don't want to stack like the same type 5 times. Use some different ones. You get a really nice riser stack. Some downlifter things. The atmospheres will fade out. The main thing that's playing during this build is the vocals and also this guy opening up. Yeah, I'm just automating the high end to come down and then right back up. The noise will sweep up, so that's its automation. So I'm getting, it's kind of nice because here you could hear like, there's no noise, it's just those triangle waves. But here, all that noise combined with the endless smile on the whole group just really helps to bleed this out all the way. And a similar effect with the reverb, just all the way up and then back down. Yeah, then the Reese ends and we just get a sub drop into a sub riser. All the way. Last but not least, got the vocals. Added a little fade in, just, you know, a little reverb throw fade in. The pad, the vocal pad fades out. What's this one? Yeah, just doing different vocal effects to create this transition. You know, some will go away, some new ones will come in, create a little transition. And just like that, we're at the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said in the beginning, this entire project file is going to be up on Patreon. The racks I showed off, like the harmonic bass rack, the Donk rack, samples, pretty much everything on Patreon. Go check it out. Helps me out a ton. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe, and comment what else you want to see from me. And yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next one.